All right, welcome back, coders. Today we're going to be learning about the ultrasonic sensor for the EV3 robot. We're going to be setting up a project, doing some pseudocode. We're going to see how we can read the ultrasonic sensor, how we can display that ultrasonic sensor's value, and how we can set up that ultrasonic sensor to make things happen based off of events or by using loops. All right, let's get into it. All right, so we're going to start off by going to our EV3 Mindstorms Make Code project center here. We're going to create a new project, so I'm just going to click on New Project. First thing I'll do is I'll change this to JavaScript. I'll delete the original code here for a forever loop. Just take that out. And I'm going to change the name of my project down here. So I'm going to say Ultrasonic. I'll say Ultrasonic 1 there. All right, so first things first, I'm going to list out my initials. I'm going to put the date for today. Today is February the 12th of 2020. And I'm going to label what this is. This is the ultrasonic sensor. All right, now the first thing I'm going to do is, normally in the past, we've done some just hard coding, but we're going to make all of our code from this point on work with functions. So that way we can make it modular and we can add code that we've created to other code. So that way we never really lose our progress. All of our time spent coding can be used to add upon itself. So to do that, I have to create a function. I'm going to start off by labeling this. I'll say functions. And then down below this, I'm going to have my main function. So basically, I'm going to define things that will happen up here in my functions area, and then I'm going to actually run those functions down here in my main function. So when I come to functions here, I'm just going to type in function. That's the keyword to create a function, and I'm going to call this I'll call it US underscore test, because it's going to be a test for my ultrasonic sensor. And when I refer to my ultrasonic sensor, typing out the entirety of ultrasonic can be a waste of time. Just know that whenever I type US from this point, that I mean the ultrasonic sensor. That's basically what it means. So I'll actually write that as a little note right here. Whenever you see US, that means ultrasonic. There we go. All right, so I have my ultrasonic test here. I'm going to create a function here. To create the function, once again, we type in function. We put in the name that we want our function to have. If we want our function to have some parameters that you could implement, then you could put it inside the parameter list, but you don't necessarily need it. So I'm just going to leave this as an empty ultrasonic test here. I'm going to put in some curly brackets here. And now I can basically fill in this function with whatever kind of code I want to run. Down here, if I want to actually run this, I have to put it down in my main function as a function call. So I'm going to put US underscore test. And now for my main code that's actually going to run, it's going to run this function, which means anything that happens inside of these two brackets gets run. All right, so let's start this off with just a basic test. I'm just going to have it display on my brick that I have ultrasonic sensor tests. So let's go down here and we'll say that when this runs, I'm going to show a string. And that string is going to be ultrasonic test, US test. And I'll put this on line 12. There we go. So now we can see as it's running, it is running this code because what is actually happening is this is the function definition, but it is going to be calling that down here on the bottom of my code here. So I can see that what's going to happen after all my definitions get done, what's actually going to run is it's running the function down here, the ultrasonic test. All right, so I've got my ultrasonic test basically set up here. Let's do some pseudo coding here. So I have my basic layout here ready. I have my functions up here. I've got my main code running here. What do I want my code to do? So here I'm just going to show, I'm going to display menu. That's what's showing here is this US test here. Now what I want to do is I think I want to have my ultrasonic sensor show up just showing how far away an object is. So to do that, I'm going to create a little text value up here that will tell me where the ultrasonic sensor is currently showing. So I'll just say, as far as code, I want to display current ultrasonic readout. And what do I want it to do? I want it to stop when the ultrasonic readout is less than 100, I want to beep and display a message. That's all I'm going to do. So I'm going to make it to where when the ultrasonic sensor detects that something is less than 100 centimeters away, I'm going to make my robot beep, and it's going to display a message. And that's all I really need to do here. So as far as displaying the current readout, let's see how we can do that. What we need to do first is we need to create a variable that will hold the ultrasonic sensor's value. So I'm just going to say US_value, and I'm going to set that to start. If I go here, remember if we're in JavaScript, and we have to actually use the let keyword to instantiate a variable at a memory location. That is, in my RAM somewhere, I'm labeling a bucket US value. That's what's happening here. And I get to set it to whatever kind of value I want. If I set it at 0, then now the JavaScript code knows that US value should be a number type. If I change this to true, then it would assume that US value is a Boolean type. And if I change this to something in double quotes, like true like that, then this is now a string. So this is how basically the variable is determined, what the data type is. I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to set it to 0. All right. Now, I want to display that readout. So I'm going to put right here, actually, let me move this down because this would actually be technically a instantiation of a variable. So let me put that here. Set US value, or I'll say reset US value. All right, so this is going to set it to 0 as we see here. Now, if we wanted to set it to not 0, we could set this to a different value. So if we wanted to set this to the actual value of the ultrasonic sensor, we could go over here to Sensors, scroll down to where you see the ultrasonic sensor, and right here we have ultrasonic1.distance. And this is a variable type, or this is a check to see what the distance currently is in ultrasonic port 1. So if I click on this, you'll see that this arrives here, sensors.ultrasonic1.distance. And I can actually set the value of the ultrasonic sensor to be whatever that number is right here. All right, so let's try that out. Right now, you can see that the value is being set. However, I need it to actually display that. So I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to actually display it. So what I'll do is I'll go into my brick section. I'll scroll down to where it says show value. I'm going to choose that. And now if we go in here, we can have this. This will display a string, and then it will display a value after the string. So I'll put right here, I'll say ultrasonic distance. And then for the second parameter of show values function here, you can put in what you would like the numeric value to be. You can put a specific number, or in this case, we want it to show the US's value, or the ultrasonic sensor value. So I'm just going to put that variable name in here. There we go. So it says US distance is whatever the US value is. And there we go. Now you'll see that as I move this value around, nothing happens. Here in the tests here, the tests region, when I run this program for the first time, it checks to see what this value is. So let's take a look at how this code currently works. What's happening is the code runs, it skips over all the function stuff here, and then it runs this command right here, US test. From there, it goes and it checks to see what US test is doing. So it goes over here and it starts inside of this bracket right here, and it runs the code from here. So it runs US test, puts that on the 12th string or the 12th line. Then it says, all right, I'm going to make a variable called US value, and I'm going to set it to the distance of the ultrasonic sensor plugged into port 1. From there, as we scroll down, we can see it's going to show the value of that distance right here. Now, if I wanted this to be constantly running, I could use a loop to do this. That would be one way to do it. So let's see how we could do that. I could make it to where I just put all of this inside of a loop, for example, or I could put it in a loop down here where it actually runs the program. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go down here to where the main section is, and I'm just going to say that this will be an infinite loop right now. To do that, I can use the while command, and then I can put true inside of the parameter list here. It is checking to see if this condition is true, then it's going to run everything inside of these brackets that follow. And I'm going to put this US test inside of those brackets. So in essence, what this is doing is it's just going to keep on running this US test loop over and over and over again, and it will never stop. So let's check out how this works. If I press stop and play, you can see that it is looping. And you can see that it has this highlighted because really what's happening is it's just going through this loop and running this over and over and over and over again until the end of time. It's going to run all the code in here over and over again. So what that means is now every time that it does this show value right here, it's actually going to do this every time it runs through the loop. It's going to update that value. So now we can see over here on the left-hand side, if I go over here and I move this value right here, you'll see that that number does in fact change now because it is looping through the process over and over again, and it's doing the command over and over again to check to see what that current number is, and then updating that number and drawing it in the first line here. So this is just happening on a loop over and over again. This is basically how we can show our ultrasonic value. Now, we can make some conditionals to make something happen based off of this value. So let's see how we can do that. If we go over here where we have when the readout is less than 100 centimeters, beep and display a message. So let's see how we can do that. If I go in here and I go to sensors, I'm sorry, this is actually be a conditional statement. So I'll say if the US value is less than or equal to, we'll just say less than 100. And I'm going to put this inside of some parentheses. So what this is checking now is it's saying if this is true, so that is the ultrasonic value is less than 100, then it's going to run code inside of these little these curly brackets right here. So what do I want it to do? I want it to beep. So I'm going to go over here to my music section. I'm going to go over to play sound effect. I could make it play a tone or something, I suppose. I could do it that way. In fact, let's just do that because we've done play sound effect before. So this time I'm going to play a note instead. So I'll go to note frequency. Let's see. We'll go to ringtone right here. So I'll play a tone. I'm going to play the note C. So if the value goes under 100, it's going to play this note, and I want it to display a message. So I'm also going to make it say something. I'll make it say, I'll go up to my brick commands here. I'll go to show string, and I'll make it say US warning, less than 100. There we go. And I'll make it say that on line 3 so it doesn't overwrite what I put here. All right, let's check it out. So if we run this code, we'll see that the distance is shown right here. If I change that distance, that number changes. And remember, what's actually happening is it's looping through this over and over again because down here it's just doing this while loop, which means that it starts at the top of the ultrasonic test, runs all the way to the bottom of the code, and then it comes back up to the top, and it just keeps on doing a cycle from top to bottom. In fact, if you wanted to see exactly how it did what it did, you can go over here to where there's a little icon of a snail. You click on that snail to activate slow-mo, and that will actually show you what your code does from the beginning. So you can see what it is currently doing and how it's running through the code. It's checking. What is the value? It does this if statement check. Okay, that didn't run, so it's going to go back up to the top. What it's actually doing is down here, as you can see, it does the while true. It checks to see if this is true. If it is true, it runs this code. And when it runs this code, it starts from the top of this, and it goes down to the bottom and cycles back up. This is essentially how computers do their commands when it works with sequence selection and iteration. We're going to talk about events shortly, but right now we're just doing this loop where it does these checks every time. Now, if I go in here and I change my value of the ultrasonic sensor, basically simulating that something got closer to it, once I go under 100 centimeters, there we go. It plays a tone. Excellent. So we've got the idea down here. Let me make it to where it only plays that tone for a short period of time and then it stops making sound. In fact, I'm just going to make it play a sound effect because I like some of the sound effects they have instead. Just showing you how you can play tones instead. I'll play a sound effect. When it comes to which sound effect I want, I can go in here and go to sounds, put a period, and I have all the different options of what I could put in. I'll make it say fantastic. There we go. All right. I'm going to press stop, press play. I'm going to disable slow-mo so that way we can just see it run as it would run normally. Right here, if I have this distance, anywhere up here is fine, but once I go below 100, now you'll notice that it keeps doing this until I go past 100 centimeters again. And you'll notice that if I go past 100 centimeters, that this warning does not disappear, right? We'd have to write some functionality to make it to where if the distance is not at this point, then it does not display that message. So there are ways around this. But right now, what's happening is once it reaches this point of less than 100, then it's going to play this sound as long as it's going to check that. Remember, it's going to continue looping this. So it's just going to keep on playing this sound until it is no longer in this range. If it checks this value and it's no longer less than 100, then it's not going to show this anymore. It's not going to play this. And it has already written this to the screen, so it's not going to erase it unless I tell it to. So if I wanted it to erase it, a way I could do that is right here after the if statement, I could put an else statement. And then I could make it say on line 3 that the sensor is in range. So I'll put US in range. Or I'll make it say under 100 centimeters. There we go. So now when I run this code, you'll see that my line 3 now says that the ultrasonic sensor is less than 100. It's under 100 centimeters. When it gets below 100 centimeters, it changes that. And if I go back, it fixes the text again. All right, I hope this was illuminating on how you could get your robot to be able to use the ultrasonic sensor, both to display things and also to control motors or control anything else inside of your system. I hope you have a great time playing around with the robots. I can't wait to see what you come up with.